Hi, boys and girls. Okay, so for math this Tuesday, we are going to begin adding fractions. So up until this point, we've talked about how to compare fractions, and we have ordered fraction on number lines and then compared fractions. And so now it's time to discuss adding fractions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of problems using our fraction strips as models, because first we're going to start by adding fractions with models and drawings. So that's our focus right now. We want to remember when we're adding fractions that what we already know, the numerator and the denominator. The denominator being the total parts the whole is divided up into, and the numerator being the number of the parts that are represented by the fraction. So when we're adding those together, the denominator stays the same. The denominator is still the parts of the whole. What we're adding are the parts. So when we're adding the fractions together, we add the numerator. We don't add the denominator. So just keep that in mind when we're doing these problems. So I'm going to pause you. We're going to do some problems with the models, and then we'll do a couple more practice problems, and then you'll do some on your own in your notebook. So hold tight. Okay guys, so here you see our one whole, and hopefully you've been using the online manipulative with the fraction strips to help you out. If not, you can always draw them in your notebook. So we have our one whole. And going in order, first breaking it up into the largest pieces, here are our two halves. Two halves make a whole. Okay, so here's the first problem I'm going to give you. If Frank ate 1/4 of chicken pie for lunch and another 1/4 of chicken pie for dinner, how much of the chicken pie did he eat all together? So we heard those words all together. So what are we doing? What's our operation? We are going to add. So let's line it up. We always line it up to the left so that things line up and we can compare. All right. So we have 1/2 of the fourths eaten. So our answer would be 2/4. Looking at this, we don't add the denominator because we discussed this already. That's the parts of the whole. We have 2, 1, 2. We added the numerator to get 2/4. But what do you notice here? Well, I notice right away that it lines up perfectly with 1/2. So we could say our answer is 1/2 of that pie because we know these are equivalent fractions, right? So if we were going to write the answer in simplest form, we would write 1/2, Frank ate 1/2 of the pie. Okay, so that's our first example. Let me put that half back so we have our fractions lined up in the order. Let's talk about another one, okay? Let's see. Okay, this time we're talking about Maya. Maya used 3/8 of a block of clay to make a frog. Okay, so here's an eighth. And she said she used 3/8. So let me put 1, 2, 3. 3/8. Okay, fine. She used 1/8 of a block to make the lily pad. What fraction of the block did she use in all? Well, there's that key words again, in all. So the operation is addition. And once again, we do not add the denominator. The denominator is consistent because these are all part of eighths. Eighths. All 1/8 of a whole. Okay, so we don't add the denominator, we add the numerator. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/8. Looking at this, once again, what do you notice? I notice right away that 1/8 is equivalent to 1/2. I'm sorry, not 1/8, 4/8. So we have 4 here. 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. So we could write again in simplest form that Maya used 1/2 of the clay. Okay, so you can see this is a way we can use these manipulatives to add fractions and also see the simplest form pretty easily. Okay, so this is what we're going to work with either drawing or using the online manipulative for these problems today. So hold tight. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you some drawing ones in case you don't have access to the online manipulatives, or if this doesn't work for you, I'm going to give you another option. So hold on. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So now, if it's not a word problem and it's a addition problem all set up for you, for example, we have 2/5 at plus 1/5. Again, same thing. We're not going to add the denominator. We're going to add the numerator. So when we do that, we get 2 plus 1 is 3. And we just bring the denominator over. So we have 3/5. Okay. So we want to make sure and we want to check to see if this is in the simplest form. And a good way to do that is to draw it. So just like we did over there, it's a little bit easier when you're drawing to first make the number that you have in your denominator. It's just a little bit easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then above it you can make the whole. Okay? There's the whole. And then, let's see, so we have 3/5, so we shade in 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can see that it doesn't really, okay, let's put in our halves. Is that equivalent? Not quite, goes over. All right, is there anything that's divisible by 3 and 5? No, so guess what? This is already in simplest form, so that would be your answer, okay? Let's do one more with one that you need to break down to simplest form so you can see with drawing, okay? And then you're going to try and do some of these on your own. All right, don't panic. We're going to try 2/12 plus 4/12. All right? How do we add these together? Well, we're not going to add the denominator. That just comes right over. We are going to add the numerators, and we get 2 plus 4 is 6. So that's our answer, okay? But how do we know this is in the simplest form? An easy way to find out is to draw it. And that's what we're working on right now, so that's what you're going to do in your notebook for each problem, okay? So again, it's easier to do the parts, the denominator part first, so you can line it up to whatever you get once you've drawn your bar. Let's see, I'm going to make 12, as best I can, 12 equal parts here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 4 more. 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so that's 12 parts. Above this, I'm going to do, you can do it in order like we did with our strips. Here's halves. And then above it, I'm running out of room, but you get the idea, is our whole. So here's our halves, and underneath are 12ths. How many 12ths are we coloring in? 6. Okay, so 6 parts of the whole. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so my drawing is a little bit off, but if you line it up correctly, we can see that 6/12 is equivalent to a half of this whole. So by the drawing, we can simplify this by saying it's equivalent to 1/2. So you could write 1/2 as an answer. The other thing I just want to point out is that we know from our multiplication practice that 2 is divisible by each the numerator and the denominator. Okay, so you can get to these simplest forms in different ways. Right now we're using our models to get there so that you can see. Okay? So with each of these problems, you want to find the sum, but you also want to draw it out so that you can see if you have the simplest form once you've added them together. Okay? So practice them in your notebook, and then you're going to use the answer key to check your work. And don't worry, we're going to continue to work on this week, and by the end of the week you'll be a pro. Okay? All right, see you guys soon. Thanks.